This is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings beat the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas yesterday. De'Aaron Fox led the way with 28 points as the Kings handed the Mavs just their third home loss of the season. Sacramento's road trip continues against the Timberwolves tonight in Minnesota. So the back end of a back-to-back. Our coverage of that one begins with game night at 3:30. Kings Live is at 4:30. And then join the G-Man for tip-off at 5 o'clock. The Raiders fell to the Bengals in Cincinnati yesterday, 30-16, while the 49ers snapped a 9-game regular season losing streak to their NFC West rival, Seattle Seahawks. It was Robbie Gould's field goal in overtime that lifted the 49ers to a 26-23 victory. It's 7:01. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories. Now it's time for the second hour of the drive on Sports 1140 KSGK.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
Kevin Durant blows by Dulles, runs into Shumpert. Shumpert with a steal. Lead out pass to Fox. Going to the rack. Up and down move. He's got the bucket. Kings back within 3 at 25-22. Let's make that your Petkus Brothers moment of the game. De'Aaron Fox with a brilliant transition push.
That was your Petkus Brothers moment of the game for Friday. Get the spectacular backyard you've always wanted with a beautiful Petkus Brothers patio or sunroom. The best price, best value, guaranteed every day. Kyle got a joke for you. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
That's the Petkus Brothers.
Petkus Brothers who?
Petkus Brothers awesomeness at sunrooms. Shut up.
Classic joke.
Yeah, it's
Classic.
tried and true. It is. Welcome into the drive. 339-1140. 1-800-920-1140. All guests, including you, coming via the the Fire Wings hotline.
Well, guess also.
21 different flavors to choose from. Firewings.com, just wing it. And Jiffy Lube, proud sponsor of the text line at 441140. Please excuse the extra nasally voice and the bit of a dottiness in me today. I am chock full of medicine, as I've got that cold everyone else has going around. But hey, we're gamers, and we'll make it through.
Heck yeah, we are.
Coming up at 7:35, we'll do a deep dive on the Kings over the weekend, including last night. Also coming up tonight, I mean, Kings. We got a game in Minnesota. We'll sandwich that with four down territory. I got to erase that on the sheet. Coming up at 7:15.
It's throwing me off a lot.
Huh?
It's throwing me off a lot.
Yeah, it's throwing me off too. But I want to start right here, and we'll give you guys a chance to talk quite a bit about the games and about the Kings. With Kyle, who said yesterday on Twitter, he said, coming up at 7:05.
Tweeted this at 10 p.m. last night.
Yes, you did. He said you had a hot Fire Wings take on the Sacramento Kings.
I do.
Okay. Well, we've got 50 seconds. You said 7:05.
Yeah, I know.
Problem is, people are going to set their alarms.
I know, for 7:05. All right,
7:05.
so we're going to vamp for 53 seconds now.
Vamp for a few seconds here.
I think the fire take of the day would be a really good thing.
Oh, I agree.
Because we can concoct our own. We can find some on the internet.
Yep.
The amount of, at what point do the 49ers consider moving Jimmy Garoppolo? Takes I saw yesterday were brutal. They're not moving Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, they're not moving Jimmy Garoppolo. Everyone's got to relax. I want to shout out to whoever the mystery lady was at the Kings post game after the Warriors game. There was a lady in a Warriors jersey, which I can't stand when this happens. We've talked about it. She was front and center, waving her jersey around, and there was somebody off screen that was holding up a Comcast Authentic Fan placard and holding it in front of the jersey and holding it in front of the lady's face. The lady was getting progressively more and more pissed off. But this person didn't stop, just kept holding it in front of her face. She was getting really mad because her airtime was getting screwed up. I enjoyed that. There was no physical contact other than the one lady trying to pull down the sign, so the physical contact was from her.
That's right.
And sources say, I don't have this confirmed, but sources say towards the end, our good friend, what's his face, John Wilson.
John W. Wilson.
Provided a high-def version. Towards the end, you see a female face move into the screen. Sources tell me that was her daughter.
Oh,
that was daughter
snap.
On mom crime right there.
Good for daughter.
Yeah, props
making
to her.
a play.
I want to see more of that.
Yeah,
Let's keep it
that was
clean.
awesome.
All right,
That was
it's past 7:05, so people tuned
man.
in. We gave everybody the opportunity to get here and set their alarms. Kyle Madsen, you have what you say is a hot fire take.
I do.
On the Sacramento Kings.
Kyle Madsen. Wait, hang on. I was just looking at the Kings' schedule last night.
Yeah.
The Kings are a playoff team, dude.
Oh, what?
They are. And I think it's disappointing if they don't make it at this point.
Just to be clear, I had no idea. Kyle told me
this is on the
show,
fly that I'm making.
We very rarely talk before the show.
Your choice, not mine.
My choice, because I want to save everything for the air.
Right.
I'm very obsessive about that. Learned that from
So
Jim
what about
Cosmo.
after the show? What can you explain that?
After the
So you
show,
don't talk to me?
no, then I'm just tired. So he says, hey, you want to know what my take is? I said, no, please. No, I want you to hit me with it for the first time at 7:05. Dude, no, they're not. They're not.
We're going to talk about that on a radio show?
Yes, Dave. We're going to talk about it on a radio show. And I'm not saying that to be
no, I know you're
downer.
not being jinxy guy. But I was looking at it last night, and you look at the way they played the Warriors twice, the way they beat the Mavs last night.
Yep.
They are learning things on the fly so quickly.
Yep.
And getting better as the season goes on here. That, like I said, I was looking at their schedule, and there's not games on there that I'm circling like, oh man, that's a definite loss. And that to me, that to me is the definition of a playoff team. They're 3 games over 500 now.
They are 3 games over 500.
They're going in against a Minnesota team that they just hammered.
I believe they have to win, what I see, 2 more games to ensure they're 500 going into the new year.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just break this down non-emotionally.
Because that's what, when you zoom out, like if you're just looking at this season, we do that all the time with our power rankings.
Sure.
You look at just this season, they're one of the 8 best teams in the West.
Okay, so let's look at this. We're not going to account for injuries because we can't predict those. So let's just assume nobody gets injured on any team.
In a vacuum.
In a vacuum. Are we both in agreement that the top 4 seeds, the Nuggets, Warriors, Thunder, and Lakers, will all make the playoffs in the West?
Nuggets, Warriors, Thunder, Lakers.
Those are your top 4 seeds right now.
Yes.
Okay, so let's put that aside.
Yep.
And that leaves us with the Clippers, Grizzlies, Kings, and Trailblazers. Of those 4 teams I just mentioned, other than the Kings, so Clippers, Grizzlies, and Blazers, are you comfortable in saying any of those teams you're sure are going to make the playoffs this year? Grizzlies, Clippers, Blazers.
No.
No. Okay, so those are all wild cards.
Yeah, they'll be in the hunt for sure, but I'm not betting my life on any of them making it.
So what we're talking about is we're talking about 4 spots being available in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And of those 4 spots, the Clippers, Grizzlies, Kings, and Blazers are currently in there.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings being in basically a 3-way tie for 6. That leaves out the Mavericks, the Spurs, the Rockets, the Pelicans, the Jazz, and the Timberwolves. I'm comfortable in saying that the Timberwolves will not make it. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm also comfortable in saying, okay, I'll even throw the Mavericks out that they won't make it.
Okay.
I'm also comfortable in saying, you know what, I'm even going to go and say the Spurs won't make it, which
I am
is
too.
not a great bet.
They're in real disarray.
So now we have the Pelicans, Jazz, and Rockets, along with the Clippers, Grizzlies, and Blazers and Kings. Okay, so that is 7 teams, 4 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Houston Rockets going to make the playoffs?
I don't know. They have been objectively bad this year.
I think they will.
Okay.
I mean, right now they're 14-14. They've won 3 in a row. They are currently 1.5 games out of the 8 seed. I'm fairly comfortable in saying if I had to bet that the Rockets will make the playoffs. That leaves 3 spots and a number of teams. Grizzlies, Blazers, Jazz, and Pelicans. Are the Jazz going to miss the playoffs?
They might.
I'm comfortable in saying the Jazz will make the playoffs.
Interesting.
And that is the end of who I'm comfortable with. But in my opinion, if you ask me to bet money right now, I would bet heavily that the Rockets and Jazz, again, injuries aside, will end up a top 8 team in the West.
Okay.
That leaves 2 spots. Again, if you're going with my narrative, that leaves 2 spots for the Kings, Clippers, Grizzlies, Blazers, Spurs, Mavs, Pelicans,
Didn't we throw the Spurs and Mavs out?
We did. I'm just naming the teams, but you're right. So that would be the Kings, Blazers, Clippers, Grizzlies, Pelicans.
Are you certain any of those teams are objectively better than the Kings? Like player for player?
No, I'm not. I look at a team like the Clippers. The Clippers are 17 and 12. I look at them and I go,
I think they were hot to start the year, and they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. And that's what gets me with the Kings, and that's what drives my confidence in them. Is I don't think they're doing anything above their heads. I don't think you're looking at Buddy Hield and going, man, you know what? He's just shooting at an unsustainably high clip right now. The regression is going to come, and the Kings are going to lose a bunch of games. Like, it's a different guy every night. Like, De'Aaron Fox is obviously the leader, but they have a different player, it seems, every night who comes up with a big play. They have good depth. Yogi Ferrell's been a revelation.
I will say one thing that worries me. There are a number of things that worry me.
Sure.
But the one I would point out, we talk about the Sacramento Kings' strength of schedule. They're currently in a two-way tie for 7th. Utah, by a large margin, has the toughest schedule in the NBA right now, and they're below the Kings. Portland has the 3rd toughest schedule in the NBA. They're ahead of the Kings, and they've had a tougher schedule than the Kings. Memphis is number 4, tougher schedule than the Kings. Denver. You're seeing a trend here, which is you're going to see most of the top 10 be Western Conference teams because they have to play each other. Minnesota is who's tied with the Kings for toughest schedule.
Kings are better than Minnesota, though. I don't think they have the best player of those two teams, but I think top to bottom, they're better coached. They have a better roster.
And the Clippers in Houston are 9 and 10. New Orleans is 13. So you've got a lot of teams that have played a tough schedule and will continue to play a tough schedule, let's be fair. Kyle, I'm not saying that. I'll tell you this much, and we'll take a break here. I'm not saying, had you said this 2 months ago, I would have had to have called HR and had you temporarily suspended for rehab.
Rachel!
Yeah, I would have had to call Rachel. You would have had to go into rehab, and we would have had to figure out what's really going on. And I would have been there for you.
Sure.
Now, I will say this. I think that it is almost even money as to whether or not the Kings are going to finish 500, which is unheard of. I still think the Kings are likely to not make the playoffs, but that percentage has certainly risen into the fact that I think it's okay to have that conversation now in a legit way. And that's pretty insane.
I'm sticking by my hot take.
Sticking by your hot take. Okay.
Take
Kyle said it. Kyle said it first before anyone. Anywhere. Nobody said it anywhere.
Just speaking it into existence.
That the Sacramento Kings are going to make the playoffs. One note before we go to break, just to kind of back up what you said, Kyle. I wrote it last night. I'm looking for it. The Sacramento Kings would have to go
10-43.
10-43. And they would still hit the Vegas over.
Actually, Kings Twitter MVP John
got it wrong. You mean put out false information? Yes,
Kings
disinformation
campaign against the Kings.
Kings Twitter MVP, standing for most venereal.
Hey, nope, don't do it. Don't do it. That was off
not
math MVP.
No, it's not. No, it's not. MVP standing for math
very poorly.
Yes, mathing very poorly. John put out fake news. Fake news, as we like to call him, Kelly John Conway, and his alternative facts. And then I put out the correct facts.
Why was it not Kellyanne Johnway?
I don't, because it was on the fly and I'm on a lot of medication, Kyle. I got a cold. We'll take a break. 4 Down Territory is next right here. Right here at Sports 1140 KHTK. Four Down Territory. Brought to you by Firewings. 21.
It's like Harry Callis is a Canadian on South Park.
21 different flavors to choose from, eh? Firewings.com, you hosers. Just wing it.
Don't call me buddy guy.
Don't call me buddy guy. Don't call me guy. Buddy, I ain't your buddy guy.
You can call me Buddy Hield.
First down.
Is it more the Rams faltering last night or the Eagles and Nick Foles?
Yes. Rams haven't looked. The Rams and Chiefs are both kind of Todd Gurley is,
Totally,
But, dude, there's something to be said about Nick Foles and the Eagles. All he does is lead them through the AFC playoffs and win a Super Bowl.
NFC playoffs, too.
That, too, by the way. He led them, hey, Kyle, he led them through both because the Patriots won the AFC playoffs and he led them through them.
So, ipso facto, they would have gone through the AFC.
Apto, ixto. Exactly.
Okay, so, on the other side.
Someone
sent me this today. Tyler on Twitter.
Hey, Tyler.
I'm not going to butcher his last name out of respect. Jared Goff's last 3 games, he's completing 54.9% of his passes with 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions. He's 5.5 yards per attempt. That's brutal.
Youchers.
And that's a 3-game sample. And I know one of those games was against the Bears, and they're the best defense in the league. So, but that's really bad. Like, this is supposed to be a high-octane offense, and you can't have that with your quarterback playing like that.
Is there any part of you that's like, hey, what do you know? The hot fire teams in the NFL in the beginning and middle of the season are somehow faltering, and now the other teams are catching up. Gee, when has that ever happened to every year in football ever? And we get sucked in every year. Oh, the Chiefs and the Rams, bro. That's your Super Bowl.
Well, it looked like it, and the Chiefs could still roll through the AFC, but the Rams look vulnerable. Teams have stopped biting on their play action. They ran more play action than any team in the league. And Jared Goff has not proven yet that he can just be a drop back and dice a team up passer. And teams are forcing him to run the ball, and it's killing Goff.
It's killing him. Second down.
Second down.
As a Niner fan, that's you, Dave.
That's me.
Were you split over yesterday's win?
Yeah, but not as much as I usually would be. I wasn't because it was Seattle. And it's, listen, fan is short for fanatic. You're not logical. You're hypocritical and you do dumb things. From 50,000 feet, you can make the argument. Okay, great. You got a overtime win over Seattle. You got to say fun things on Twitter and talk smack to your friends and feel good. But it wasn't worth 3, maybe 4 picks in the draft when it's all said and done. I don't know. What I do know is I had a lot of fun watching that game yesterday. It's a good story. I found myself, imagine saying this just recently, Kyle, as recently as a year ago, if not longer. Imagine saying this 4 or 5 years ago. It was so nice to see Richard Sherman get a win over his old team.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Very odd. Very odd sensation for sure.
Very odd sensation.
On top of being conflicted about being excited about the win.
Yeah. There was a lot of conflict.
That was the most fun I've had watching a 49er game in a very long time. I think last year's game against the Jags was a lot of fun too, but just being the Seahawks, that rivalry needed something to kind of re-spark it, and I think that was it. Some of the jawing between Sherman and his former teammates this week.
Yeah.
They talked about taking the loss personally and then going out and fighting in this game. I think that was a huge win for them, and it was fun to watch. In that moment, it was fun. And like you said, you zoom out afterwards and you go, the draft pick, but I would rather have watched them win that game than watch them blow it at the end again. That would have been tough.
Is there any chance that come this spring you're going to go, you know what? If I could snap my fingers and we go back and lose that game 35-3, I would do it.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Now, if they had gotten blown out, it would have been fine. But to lose, that's not what happened in the game.
Sure.
And to lose in that fashion that they would have had to lose in would have been really tough.
Coming up at 8:05, we'll talk to Kyle Madsen from NinersWire.com.
Oh, good get.
What can the 49ers get for Jimmy Garoppolo in the offseason?
Stop.
Third down.
They just set my page views on fire if I want to do that stuff. Should the 49ers trade Jimmy Garoppolo?
That's not it.
With the Chiefs and Rams both stumbling, do you still have them as Super Bowl contenders?
Of course I do. It's a stupid question, Kyle.
Yeah,
the Chiefs are
my question was
currently number 1 in the AFC, and the Rams are number 2. Yeah, I have them Super Bowl contenders, but I don't have them as Super Bowl favorites anymore. They are both, to me, now back in the field. As a matter of fact, I would say, to me, if you forced me to pick teams I thought could win the Super Bowl in order, I would probably go right now. I would probably go Saints, Bears, Chargers.
I think that's where I'm at too.
And that's weird.
Very strange. But the Chiefs inability to get stops, and then we saw the Rams defense just struggle so badly yesterday against Foles. That's very concerning. So yeah, I'm with you on those three. The team that's stumbling that I'm worried about is the Patriots.
Yeah, that's very interesting. They have not lost 2 in a row in December since 2002.
Yeah, they haven't played on wild card weekend since 2009.
Oh.
That's insane. And I know we talked a lot about, you know what, I'll stop believing in the Patriots once they're out. I think I'm
Don't do it. Don't do it, Kyle. Don't do it.
I want to. So
you
bad.
want to. You want this. Hey, you know where we're at right now with the Patriots? We're exactly where we were with a couple weeks left in the NBA season with the Cavs. It's the same thing. It's LeBron and it's Tom Brady.
Is it?
And we're both about to fall into the chasm.
Nobody's talking about Tom Brady as the NFL MVP, though.
No, and LeBron is, all this and old and washed up.
Yeah, but he was in an MVP conversation.
All right. Okay. By the way, we all know Houston's going to win the whole thing anyways. So, come on. Texans. It's all set up for them.
Fourth down.
Fourth down.
I still don't believe. Saints-Panthers, who you got? Saints -6.
Yeah, I know. This is a tough one, dude.
Is it, though?
I'll tell you why it is. It's tough because I don't trust Carolina as far as I can throw them, but I know they are so fired up for this game. They really are. The Saints owned them last year. They've got all the bulletin board stuff, and I feel like this is a bulletin board team, which isn't good. I'm gonna go with the tougher call here. I'm gonna go with the Panthers upset, and I hate trusting the Panthers on anything. I'm gonna go with the Panthers upset. I think they're gonna be fired up tonight. I think McCaffrey's gonna run all over the place, and I think Cam Newton is going to be massively fired up. I think this is gonna go one of two ways. I think either the Panthers are gonna win a close game, or I think Cam Newton's going to throw 4 interceptions because he's trying to do too much, and it's going to be a blowout by the Saints. I'm going to go with the upset.
I think Cam Newton's really banged up and playing at maybe 70% of his capability, which is still an incredibly talented player, but right. I like the Saints. The Saints need to win this one. With the Rams losing, they can lock up that home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and that's so huge for them playing indoors. I understand this game is outside, but I like them to go into Carolina and win.
Coming up at 8:05 when we talk more NFL, Kyle has the scenario we all want, which is for the Browns to make the playoffs.
And it's a doozy.
And coming up next, let's get into your Sacramento Kings and exactly what went on over the weekend. Want to talk about Dave Joerger's comments, not just about Luka Doncic, but also things he wants radio shows to do, and then we will oblige.
We're going to talk about that on a radio show.
We are going to talk about that on a radio show and so much more. Your phone calls at 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. It is a drive. Sports 1140 KHTK.
Hey, this is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings snapped a one-game losing streak with a 120-113 win over the Mavericks in Dallas yesterday. De'Aaron Fox led the way with 28 points as the Kings handed the Mavs just their third home loss of the season. Sacramento's road trip continues tonight in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. Coverage begins with game night at 3:30. Kings Live is at 4:30, and tip-off is set for 5 o'clock. The Raiders went into Cincinnati yesterday, and they fell to the Bengals 30-16. While the 49ers were at home, they beat the Seahawks 26-23. That ended a 9-game regular season losing streak against their NFC West rival. It is 7:35. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories. Now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
That was an impressive update.
I thought it was.
Thank you.
You concentrated.
I didn't even look at my sheet.
Hey, easy. Kids are listening. Welcome into The Drive.
Who we got?
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. I got him. Matt George.
No, you don't, really.
I called Matt George in for just a couple quick minutes because we have a lot of stuff to get to, but I want to take phone calls. We're talking about the Kings here. Good morning, Matt George.
Good morning.
What's the weather like today?
Rainy and wet.
Okay. Is that brought to you by anybody that we need to know?
Nope, not at the moment.
All right, so
I'm Turd Ferguson.
Last night, you were texting me. Not yet, but we do still need to take over your Twitter account. Remember, I got
yes, you do. Oh, sorry,
Kyle. There we go. Now you can talk.
Hi. Was that not on the air?
Kyle
You
thinks
you need to pot him way down.
I had him. Oh, I see. Go ahead. Turn you back on now. I had you. There we go.
Hello?
There it is.
I was trying to do too much.
Yeah, you for sure were.
You can't do Kyle's job.
So Matt was texting me
What
last
you're
night.
trying to do, eliminate me?
After the game. And Matt was saying that he'd finally come around and decided that, in retrospect, Luka Doncic was the correct pick for the Kings.
I did.
I wanted you to explain that on the air, Matt.
I texted that. So what I said was that Marvin Bagley has been a mistake from the very, very beginning.
Very beginning.
And Luka Doncic,
we better slow down before
everyone's
going to lose their mind.
There's gods and then there's kings.
Right, exactly.
And the Kings could have gone to God.
They could have.
Had they have picked Luka.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Didn't work out.
Here's the thing, though.
Here's the thing.
It all began when Kobe elbowed Mike Bibby because Mike got in Kobe's way.
Oh, this is just, people are going to be
imagine how difficult it was to wipe Bibby's blood off of your elbow. Just imagine.
The Matt George heel turn is my favorite thing that's happened in this show's history.
Let me play a quote from David Joerger from yesterday.
He's got a lot of different skills, and I think he's going to become a heck of a shooter.
Let me couple things. Number one, it's poor quality. Number two, so we apologize for the crackling. Number two, this is Dave Joerger when asked about Luka Doncic for context.
He's got a lot of different skills, and I think he's going to become a heck of a shooter. And when that happens, it's going to make him quicker. He's got good ball handling set, and he knows how to play. And he's I think perhaps there was an idea that there was a ceiling on him. I don't see it, unfortunately for us. But he's great for them, and he's great for our league.
Okay, perhaps there was an idea that there was a ceiling on Luka Doncic. I don't see it. That is being truncated and put out by some. That is Dave Joerger taking a shot at the draft process and perhaps at Marvin Bagley. I fully admit, boys, that I may be naive here. I think he was just asked about a rookie that he was going into play for the first time and was being complimentary of him, and some people are reading way too much into it.
The thing that gets me is when he says, I guess there was a thought there was a ceiling on him.
Right.
That to me sounded like when you come on and you do your, if I had to guess what they were thinking thing.
Right.
That's what that sounded of to me. And then when he says, unfortunately for us, like with the little kind of well, I don't think, however, it's a shot at Bagley.
But you think so? Are you saying if you had to guess, you think that was a prepared or a
veiled shot,
at the front office for drafting Luka instead of Bagley? Okay,
I could see a conversation happening where Joerger was in the front office going, I don't know how their communication,
right?
But he storms into the front office at the front of the building and goes, "Hey, Luka's our guy. Like, here's how we can use him in this and that." And they went, we think he hit his ceiling.
Okay, so
and now he holds that grudge.
I think it's much ado about nothing. Kyle thinks there's something there. Matty George.
I'm glad he brought up the unfortunately for us part, because I think that was the major area of contention. When I initially interpreted it as we have to face Luka Doncic tonight, and he's playing out of his mind, unfortunately for us. However, going off of what Kyle said, I think Dave Joerger is 100% smart and coy, and I don't think that pettiness is below him. If there's any smidge of a shot to be had or to be taken at Brandon Williams or whoever was involved in that front office that made that decision, I think Joerger's smart enough to know he can sneak that in there. But my interpretation of it, having listened to it and seen it and then read it and everything, was that he was saying, unfortunately for us, we have to face someone with that much potential and does not have a ceiling tonight.
That's how I read into it. But taking both your points into the equation, would it help at all if I told you that, for a fact, not only Brandon, but Vlade Divac both wanted Bagley?
Well, and also, too, to provide context, Dave Joerger's been nothing but complimentary of Bagley, and
Correct.
Bagley seems to fit his system just fine, and Joerger has been supportive of Bagley since day one, and Joerger really, really seemed to like him in pre-draft workouts and everything as well. So I don't think this is a Luka versus Bagley thing of Joerger preference.
But the naysayers will say this now fits into, well, well, wait a minute. If Joerger wanted Luka over Bagley, and maybe he didn't like Bagley as much as Luka, and that's why there's that friction between the front office saying you got to play Bagley more. Maybe Joerger doesn't want to play Bagley. I mean, it's just there's so much drama there, and I don't want to buy into it. But the freaking quote was on the front page of ESPN yesterday. Like, obviously, there are people buying into it. I just want to make sure I'm not being naive.
I want to back up real quick because I think maybe I'm confused. Matt, you said that he was talking about a player they were going to have to face that night, but wasn't that comment post-game?
No, it was pregame.
It was pregame.
It was pregame. It was his pregame stuff.
Interesting.
The postgame was the talk about that on your radio show thing about the backcourt pregame. That was pregame.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay, got it. Okay, I'm on it.
Guys, isn't it just simply possible? And I know I want to talk about the Dallas win. I know there's people out there like, oh, I want to talk about Luka. Isn't it? And you know, I was super pro Luka, and isn't it just possible? Can't we say that? And we don't know, but isn't it possible that this could just all end up being the following? Maybe Luka Doncic is going to be the better player in the NBA. Let's just allow, for the sake of argument, Luka Doncic is going to be better in the NBA. But the combination of De'Aaron Fox needing the ball, the Kings already having Bogdan Bogdanovic, Willie Cauley-Stein's impending free agency, and Marvin Bagley's athleticism down low, couldn't we all just maybe agree that a very likely possibility is that Luka Doncic is going to be a better pro than Bagley, maybe, but Bagley's a better fit for the Kings and they're winning more games because, in part, they drafted Marvin Bagley.
Absolutely. I think, honestly, we and the NBA got the best case scenario. I think Luka's clearly working out in Dallas, and Dallas is going to need someone to take over the reins from Dirk as the guy there, and by all means, it's going to be Luka Doncic. I, for one, honestly don't know if De'Aaron Fox would have made this leap and would have been this good with Luka Doncic on the roster because of how ball-dominant Luka is.
Right.
And because, or the only thing I can point to as here's any smidgen of evidence to that is how Dennis Smith Jr. has taken a back
He's had
seat.
injury issues, but he also, when he's been healthy, even has not been what he. This is not the jump. De'Aaron Fox has made every jump that Dennis Smith Jr. has not this year.
Right, and all I know, all I've seen, and all that I know is that one, the Kings beat Luka Doncic last night without Marvin Bagley, Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, who weren't at full strength themselves, and two, is that the Kings, without drafting Luka Doncic and with taking Marvin Bagley, are still with 16 wins. They have, 9 road wins now?
Yeah.
They're off to their best start since 2005.
Correct.
So it's worked. So,
Yes.
I mean, we can talk about it and debate it because it's sports radio and it's fun all day long. But the reality is it's worked seemingly for both teams, and that, in my opinion, is the best case scenario.
Last thing before we send you back to news, weather, and traffic. I find it hilarious, and I was thinking about it yesterday, all the things you just said. Kings have the second most road wins in the NBA. Kings are tied for the 6th spot in the Western Conference. The Kings got their 9th road win and 16th win of the season on the same day last year, which was January 30th in New Orleans. All these amazing things have happened, yet you've lost both of your Optimist challenges so far this year.
I know.
I really don't understand why you're not bringing in more You should be. You're going to likely win. The Kings will have more wins than they ever won with DeMarcus Cousins.
And that was the one I
challenge.
felt worse about.
And that was the one I felt worse about for you too. So I highly suggest you go home, young man, with your pen and pencil and crayons. Maybe come up with a couple more.
I think I need to.
And the thing is now is that we have to move them up a little bit because now you can't be like, my next Optimist challenge is that the Kings will win a home game against Oklahoma City. I mean, they're 2-0 against them.
Well, my next one isn't looking too good because my next one is, I think it's early January when the Kings host the Warriors again, and it's that the Warriors won't make more than 9 threes in a game. They had 15 against us the other night.
Would you rather have that as your bet, or would you rather have the Kings will beat the Warriors? I will give you the opportunity to change it if you want.
I think them hitting only 9 threes is more blind optimisty because I honestly believe the Kings should beat the Warriors. They should have beaten the Warriors twice this season.
I'm saying I would allow it because I feel bad. I feel like you should have won an Optimist challenge so far.
I'm not saying they're the better team, Kyle. I'm just saying in
they're
both
obviously
scenarios,
they
should have
I'm saying
beaten
they're the better team. They're the better team. I think if Joe Lacob could trade rosters right now, I think he'd win one more championship with the Warriors and then trade rosters because in a couple of years the Kings will obviously be better than the Warriors.
So
Kyle agrees.
Can I share some pettiness before I leave really quick? I saw, I think it was Mark Stein from ESPN. It was someone from ESPN tweeted either last night or early this morning that they love watching De'Aaron Fox play, and they can't wait to come to Sacramento to see a playoff game. Yeah. And now it's awesome to see national media saying stuff like that. Who knows if it's going to happen this season or not. But coming from someone who attends Kings games all the time, regularly, in the media section.
Oh, I'm credentialed to Kings games.
This guy sat courtside.
Well, I mean,
and ate brownies.
Local hero. What do you want from me?
Anyway, coming from someone who actually...
Look here, I saved the Kings. What do you want?
What do you want? Good luck having your job. Thank you. You're welcome. Go ahead.
We get snarky, myself, Sean Cunningham, Jason Jones, when the Warriors play or the Lakers come to town because everybody shows up and suddenly the locker room's full of people. But then when the Kings play the Timberwolves or the Brooklyn Nets,
I know what you're talking about. It's that xenophobia of... We were all here when this team sucked. Go away, national media.
You don't get to cover them.
And what's even worse about the national media is it's when extra local media start showing up and they were never there before. And then you get Fleener McGillicuddy from KO blah blah channel whatever in Sacramento, and they start showing up and they're like, De'Aaron Fox looked fantastic last night. Back to you, John. And they have no idea what they're doing.
It's DeAndre Fox, actually.
Sorry.
And those national media guys get precedent. They're treated like royalty in Sacramento because they're never here.
No, ever. And so everyone's like, oh, we're going to give you all the access to every player and coach.
They introduce them to the biggest names. They used to do that with DeMarcus all the time. It drove me nuts.
Oh.
Hey, DeMarcus, meet this guy.
Right, exactly.
Here's a 20-minute private conversation.
Yeah, if you write a blog for The Ringer, God, this is so inside baseball right now. We should have no. I just want to point out that he dropped like 3 media names, and you were like making notes or something. You didn't even catch him on it.
I already got him once for the credential
Jason
thing.
Jones and Sean Cunningham. I'm Matt George.
That's name dropping?
Yeah, it's a pretty big
Welcome
name
to the show, dude. Yeah. Apparently, if I say I was at dinner with my wife.
I saw people get introduced to DeMarcus Cousins all the time. I'm Matt.
All right, one last note for you, Matt, and I'll let you go. Funny story. You mentioned I was sitting courtside Friday.
Oh, I'm Dave Ussing.
So I have a friend, and I will not name this person, that was also sitting courtside about 5 seats down from me. So,
I'm Dave. I have friends who sit courtside.
Thank you.
Bill Gates.
So please keep in mind that
Vivek Ranadive.
the seat I was in.
It was Grant.
The seat I was in is directly across from the Warriors bench. If you followed the foul line, that's where I was sitting. About 6 seats down from me to my left towards the baseline.
Floyd Mayweather.
This friend of mine is telling me after the game that the Kings take a 10-point lead, and at some point this guy sitting next to him goes, I cannot believe we're down double digits to the freaking Kings. What is going on here? And he's talking to his buddies, going back and forth. And my guy, who doesn't know who this is, has no idea who's sitting next to him, somebody who bought the seat off of StubHub, some Warrior fan. He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean down 10? Have you not watched the Kings this year? We're a lot better than we used to be. And they start going back and forth, and they're just kind of talking garbage the whole game. So after the game, he points out the guy, this Warrior fan that was walking past us back to the locker room, who he was talking garbage with the whole game. And I go, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, that's him. And the guy actually turned around. We said, that's him, and gave him kind of the nod and a wink. It was some guy named Joe Lacob. It was Warriors owner Joe Lacob he was sitting next to.
How much would it have messed you up if you were like, and it was Kyle?
Right? That's Kyle Madsen.
I told you I couldn't go because I was already going.
My guy was talking garbage to Joe Lacob the entire game, having no idea who he was.
You invited him to sit courtside?
I did.
After he found out that I was busy.
I mean, tomato, but yes.
You cancel plans.
Thank you. He could have.
Wait, where was my invite?
He was just, you work there.
You're credentialed, dude.
You're
super busy.
Way at the top.
Yeah, you're super busy.
You're a credentialed member of the media.
Yeah, you have to work. That's unbelievable.
Durant.
Notice how I can't go into the locker room because I'm always wearing my jerseys and stuff.
That never stopped you before.
That's true. But
that's how you got.
It's a good excuse.
That's how you first met DeMarcus.
Would you have let me sit courtside in my Sean Livingston jersey?
No. Oh God, no.
You have a
as a matter of fact, the person
you have an optimism jersey. Leave me alone.
I took a person with me, good friend of mine, school teacher, super nice guy. Oh, Dave knows school teachers, and
that's not an life. Teachers are super, just like.
Oh
underpaid.
Wow! So being a school teacher is not name droppable?
No.
Wow. Okay, shot at teachers, builders of our youth. So this guy,
I love teachers. That was a joke.
He is a lifetime Warrior fan. lifetime. I'm raised in Oakland, moved out here about 10 years ago, and his wife sat with my wife in other seats across from us. So I had two, and I told them both. I said, listen, the good news is if you'd like to come to the game with me, you can, and we've got pretty good seats. The bad news is you can't wear any Warrior gear, and you also can't outwardly root for them. Now, I understand this is a tough thing to say, and if you can't do it, don't go. But if you can swallow that, then you can go. And they both were actually very good about it. Neither of them rooted openly.
So you would have expected me to sit there in a flannel and a hat that was not a Warriors hat.
Yep.
And when they started coming back, just not reacting to anything, sitting on my hands.
Yeah, when you're sitting in those
and
seats,
you could
I will not be a part of that. I will not be a party to.
Then that wouldn't happen because you're now asking me to be a bad fan. I can't
No. I'm asking you to be an observer.
Right, and not a fan.
Right, but on one hand, you would have been able to reach out and pinch one of Steph Curry's butt cheeks. On the other hand, you couldn't be like, "Oh, Steph, you're the man."
Oh, I definitely would have high-fived.
And had you said you couldn't have done that, I would have totally respected it. But you wouldn't have seen the back and forth between me and Steph either.
Hate to break it to you, Dave. I'm on Team Kyle on this one.
I'm not saying you guys are bad people. I'm saying that them's the
Dave
rules.
is guy who's like, oh, Warriors fans are trash. They don't even know who their team is. And then guy who knows who the team is that wants to cheer for the team can't.
See, a lot of the fun of going with a buddy that roots for another team is when you razz each other the entire game. And that was one of my favorite things watching when the Kings went on their massive run and went up 10 is there a lot of Kings Warrior fan friend combos that were at the game and they were turning at each other, screaming,
lugging it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, let's hold on. Let's just you guys probably aren't aware, so let's be careful not to throw water on the entire parade. But there was a serious injury. In fact, somebody was taken to the hospital during the game. Apparently, there was a Warrior fan and a Kings fan that got into it. I don't know if you saw those reports on Twitter, which is never ever okay. Somebody was shoved. As I read, somebody was shoved. Went down a couple of rows. They were taken to the hospital from the game, and you always see that go overboard. Now, you guys aren't talking about that. You didn't know that. I didn't want to get the texts. Yeah. Here's the thing. To your point, see, that's not fun for me. That's not fun. Because how did that work out at the end of the night?
It's more fun if you get to cheer and I don't.
Correct.
And then when the Warriors win, I don't get to say anything.
Correct. And if the Kings win, I get to say everything. I'm a poor sport, man. If I have control of the situation.
Okay.
Now, if this thing was reversed and I had to do that in Oakland at Oracle, and I happened to be in, well, I wouldn't go, but if I was in Oakland and they're like, oh, hey, you can come sit with us and watch the Kings and Warriors, but you can't wear King stuff and you can't root, I'd still
Dave,
go.
I might get to sit courtside at Oracle.
See,
I took my buddy to Oracle like 3 years ago. He had never been, he's a diehard Warriors fan. He had never been to a game because he just couldn't go. So I had taken him to see a game for his birthday, and it was one of the games where the Kings got just blown out by like 35, 40 points. And I was in my King stuff, and I got trashed and razzed the entire time. But I had fun. I mean, it's a fun sports environment to me. I'm in.
I'm a big baby, dude. I fully admit it.
So speaking of big baby, because I told you this really quick, I know we got to go. But there was a little blonde girl that was sitting like immediately to my right from the media section, and she was like maybe 5 years old. And the entire game, she was chanting, she's a Warrior fan. Mm-hmm. She's wearing the little Curry jersey, and she's chanting offense at the right time. She's chanting defense at the right time. She's totally involved in the game, which I thought was fantastic. So go parents, regardless of if you're raising them wrong.
That kid's trash.
But
go ahead.
The Kings go on their massive run, get up 10 points. Warriors call a timeout, and I hear screaming. I look to my left. This poor girl is screaming and bawling her eyes out in her mother's shoulder because she's just so distraught that the Warriors were.
Yeah.
That was me.
Good. No, that was you, little girl.
You look good with hair.
Thank you. Yeah, put it on for
sorry,
Warriors
trash
fans.
kid Warrior fans. Sorry you're crying. I hope there's more trash kid Warrior fans crying at Golden One Center in the future. Me personally, I'm a bad person. Don't care. Don't root for the Warriors. It's that simple. Problem is there were awesome Kings fan kids that were truly crying on Friday night, and that is a tragedy. We'll take a break. When we come back.
I'm never coming back on the show.
It's a real tragedy.
When we return, thank you, Matt George, for hanging out for 5 minutes. When we come back, no, he was all right.
I know, and that's an upgrade.
Oh,
we're applauding him for being average.
When we come back, Dave Joerger posed a question that he wanted us to cover in our radio show today. We will play that. We'll probably get to a little football, too, right here on The Drive. Sports 1140 KHTK.
We're going to talk about that on a radio show?
Yes, we will, Coach.